reprogramming. Tell you a little bit about what we're going to do today. We're going to take you through basically all the steps that you're going to need to be a first-time programming technician for a Ford vehicle. The whole idea behind this is that programming is not going to go away. There's going to be more and more programming fixes that are in the market out there. In fact, the last report that I've seen was that 7 out of every 10 vehicles, if they have not been programmed, they will need to be programmed within their lifetime. So this is a burgeoning area, and again, if you're not in it, you're not making money at the thing, you're losing profits that your shop could definitely use. So we're going to take you through as though you have never done a program before on a Ford product. So you're going to go through a sign-up process. You're going to go through a software loading process onto your PC or your laptop, and then we're going to take you into the actual reprogramming features and how you actually use those features and functions to reprogram a Ford vehicle. Now, a couple things. First off, there's a lot of different types of equipment that are out there. I'll be explaining a little bit on the equipment side to you a little bit later. The bottom line, guys, is there are different price structures for the different equipment. Make sure you are an informed consumer. You're going to see them anywhere from about $500 to about $2,000 for your typical reprogramming equipment. If it was based on about a $1,500 purchase, most shops would take approximately 6 months to get their return on investment with doing an average number of recalibrations in the field. So again, it's not going to take you long to get a return on the investment that you spend and satisfy a lot of customers along the way there. So without further ado, let's take a look at our sponsor for the day. That's going to be Steel Aftermarket Products. We certainly appreciate those guys sponsoring the webinars and Toledo Transkit. Let's do a little bit of housekeeping as we get into our webinar today. First off, if you have any questions about ATRE or ATRE functions, you can get a hold of Lance, who's the technical director for ATRA, at lwiggins@atre.com. If you're first time onto this thing, your connection itself needs to be a hardwired type connection rather than a wireless router type connection. We've had lots of troubles with wireless routers, so again, make sure you're a hardwired type connection. The handout is a PDF format handout. Everybody should have gotten the handout. If you didn't, you can get a hold of Lance, and he'll make sure that you get a copy of the handout. You're going to have an Adobe type program to physically open the handout or to print the handout. So that's available free on the internet. Just simply look at Adobe Reader and download the program, and you'll be off to the races with that. If you have a question as we're going through our information today, feel free to ask it. The simplest way to ask a question is simply type it into the questions box that you have in your dashboard. Hit the submit key, and it will automatically pop up on my screen so that I can answer your question for you. You can also raise your hand if you'd like. We've had lots of troubles with that issue itself. So with either mics on one end not working or mics on the other end not working. So again, if you got a question, the simplest way to do this is to simply type your question in the questions box, and we'll be off to the races with it. There's going to be an automated survey that's going to follow this presentation today. Feel free again to fill the survey out. We'd love to hear from you at the conclusion of our webinar. I'd like to give a special thanks to the guys from Drew Technologies. They're a OE supplier for several manufacturers out there, and they also help us with the reprogramming stuff that we do here at ATRA. So again, thanks to those guys. They're a great group of guys to work with, and they helped me with getting our presentations together for doing the reprogramming. So we made sure we had all our I's dotted and T's crossed here for you guys today. This is the third reprogramming class that we've done, or webinar that we've done. We've done the GM, we've done the Chrysler, and now we're doing the Ford. You're going to see this followed up in June with a Toyota, and then following that, we're going to have a Honda reprogramming webinar we're going to do. So we're going to try to cover all 5 of the top vehicles out there as far as the reprogramming processes are concerned, so that you can feel free to reprogram anything that's actually out in the market. Most of them are very similar as far as the steps that you actually go through. So again, if you can do it on a GM, you can do it on a Ford, you can do it on a Toyota as an example. Now we're going to start talking a little bit about what J2534 actually is. You see the term that's at the top of the page right there, J2534. J2534 is a standard, and that standard was established by a group known as the Society of Automotive Engineers, or SAE. Clear back in the mid-1990s, the manufacturers were starting to get into programming, and this standard was developed as one of the processes that you can actually use for programming. It was adapted and adopted by the aftermarket for doing aftermarket programming. Well, since then, many of the OEs have actually adopted this as their factory method that they actually use. So if you did Toyota, for example, you'd actually use this exact process. GM is going to this process. Everybody out there is moving this direction because it works well and it's fairly inexpensive as far as the equipment is concerned. So what do you have to have? You're going to have access to the public internet. You're going to have a PC, a laptop, or a PDA that's capable of downloading the application and the software for you. You're going to have some sort of pass-through device. Now we're showing you a box here. The newer versions of these tools are simply cables, and the electronics is actually in the DLC plug at the end of the cable itself. So you don't have to have this big cumbersome box that you're packing around with you anymore. And then, of course, you're going to be loading that software onto the vehicle itself by passing it through your PC and, of course, your box that you've purchased for the J2534 pass-through device. Now, there are some different standards for J2534 that you definitely need to be aware of. One standard is J2534-1. That is for doing standard programming, engine, transmission, those types of functionalities. The J2534-2 standard was basically a standard that was developed for doing a program for features and systems outside of the engine and transmission circuits themselves or systems. So if you're wanting to do, for example, a entertainment center or something else like that, then you'd want to obviously have a tool that's capable of doing the J2534-2 standard. Now, when it comes to purchasing tools, guys, as I told you, the equipment is very variable in price. Just make sure it meets the standards. So you're going to want to ask some questions. Do you meet the J2534-2 standard? That's what you're actually after, because that standard allows you to do more than just engine and transmission stuff. The older standard itself was strictly for engine and transmission functionality. So bottom line is, make sure whatever your tool that you decide that you're going to purchase meets one of these two standards, because you're going to have it meet those standards in order to be able to do the process itself. The -3 standard, as you can see, is simply a tool standard that the tool company actually has to meet to assure that their tool met the SAE requirements. Now, again, there are some clone tools that are on the market, so buyer beware if you're buying off eBay or somewhere like that, because you simply may end up with a box that just has an LED in it. We've ran into this before with scan tools, people buying scan tools off the web. So, again, just buyer beware. It may not work when you get it home. So you're going to want to buy a reputable version tool from a reputable source is my whole point to you. Now, when we're talking about doing the reprogramming process, there are 3 types of processes out on the market. One is something called a directory program. Directory program basically means we take it from your PC, which was a program that was put on by the OE. This is how a dealer would do it in the older days. And they would program that module directly on the vehicle itself. That's directory programming. Remote programming you can do with this J2534-1 or 2 tool, or else you can do like the dealers do. They actually have a set of cables that allows them to program the controller right on the bench. So you basically plug into the controller on the bench with your PC and your pass-through device tool, or obviously a set of specialized cables that the manufacturer has for that particular PC, or I should say controller, and then you download the calibration from the factory website onto that controller itself. We call that, again, a remote programming process. Again, you can do this with several of the tools that are actually on the market, where you can mock up and power up your controller itself, the setting on the bench, and actually do it with the same tool I'm going to show you here in many instances. The most common process that's used in the industry is this third process. It's called the pass-through process. So the pass-through process itself means that you hook up to the factory website, just like the dealer does. You load it through your PC to the tool to the car. So it actually passes through those devices. You're not actually storing the software on your tool, whatever, or on your PC. When you do decide that you're ready to get into this market, you're going to want to check with whoever the company is that you're going to want to do programming on. So if it's Ford, GM, Chrysler, you're going to want to look at all three of those websites to make sure that your PC matches the requirements that those companies actually have. The other thing you're going to want to make sure that you do is make sure that you are a hardwired type of internet connection. This is kind of important because, again, we have so many little glitches in the internet out there that you want to limit that as much as you possibly can. So, again, get away from routers and so forth. Go to hardwired type connections. Now, you're going to be going directly to the factory website, the same place that the dealer goes to. So in this instance, we're going to be picking it right off of Ford's website here, taking the calibration, moving it through our tools and our computer and into the computer on the vehicle. This is what a typical pass-through device looks like. This is some of the DrewTech Cardac Pluses that they have. As you can see, they build for Snap-on and Bosch and Launch and Ease and so forth. Bottom line is they may not look like this. The newer versions that are on the market from several of the companies are simply cables. So don't be alarmed if you don't get this big box because, again, most of these companies are moving away from this type of technology. But you're going to have some sort of pass-through device. Now, there will be some precautions that you have to follow anytime you're doing recalibrations. The precautions are basically the same for everybody. First off, we're telling you to make sure you use a hardwired internet connection, not a wireless type connection. Number two, make sure you use a battery maintainer, some sort of battery charger that will actually maintain the state of charge, because in lots of instances this process takes quite a bit of time and it will end up turning on and turning off components sometimes in some vehicles, which in turn then can cause the battery to be pulled down too low, either losing the program or making the controller brain dead. So at the very least, you'd have to start over and resubmit the program back into the controller again after you get the battery up to a full state of charge and had your battery maintainer put back on it. Worst case scenario, you now have a phishing weight because it killed the controller, because some of the controllers do not have reboot programs built into them. So simply prevent yourself from getting in a situation by that simple fact that you need to have some sort of battery maintainer on the vehicle. Make sure your PC operating system is compatible with pass-through equipment. So before you go buying a bunch of equipment, make sure you go to the websites of the manufacturers you're going to do recalibration for. So the top 5 manufacturers are going to be Ford, GM, Chrysler, Toyota, and Honda. Those are the common ones that we get into. So make sure you go to those websites and be certain that your PC follows the requirements that they actually have. You're going to have to turn off your antivirus, your firewalls, and your pop-up blockers. Typically when you start doing the loading of the software onto your PC to make this system function. So it will tell you that as you start going through it, or if you read through the notes that they actually give you. Never do anything with the ignition key, with the battery, with the DLC, unless it's telling you to do that. I can't overemphasize that. So if it doesn't say cycle the key on and off, don't do that. If it does say it, you have to make sure you do it. After you're done reprogramming the ECM itself, you may have to relearn some components, some values, in other words, like shift adapts and idle learn and so forth. It may even tell you as you're going through this you have to disconnect some components. So for example, on a Ford, if you're doing a Ford diesel, it'll tell you to disconnect the relay for the FICM, the fuel injector control module on the Ford diesels. So you have to unplug things. So simply follow the instructions that will typically tell you what it is you need to do. This system is kind of set up on Ford's kind of a neat idea. Rather than you have to manually go through and clear the codes when everything is done, it automatically does it for you, which is kind of a neat idea. Make sure all your accessories are turned off so that you're not having a heater on or lights on or anything that can pull the battery voltage down when you get started into the reprogramming process. You do not want to run any other applications when you're doing programming. So you do not want to be out searching the internet or doing an Excel spreadsheet at the same time you're trying to do the reprogramming. Last but not least, emergency brake being set. This is kind of a generic thing here, but the bottom line is even though Ford doesn't require it, some manufacturers do. So we're just going to put that as a generic requirement because it's a good thing from a safety standpoint. So now you're probably asking yourself, all right, I understand the basics here. Where do I go to get myself hooked up to do reprogramming? Well, this is where you actually go. You go to the motorcraft.com website. So you plug this into your browser assembly itself, no matter whose browser you're using, whether you're using Google or Internet Explorer, whatever it happens to be. Hit your enter button. It's going to pull this website you're seeing right here up. This is where Ford does all of its calibrations from. So at that point, you're going to hit the Add to Favorites button, and you're going to add this website to your favorites. So if you have to go back in and look anything up, you can. There is a cost on the Ford systems for doing calibration. Some cars do not have a cost, like a Hyundai or a Kia, that type of thing. They don't charge anything. Honda's now quit charging to do calibrations. But some cars do have a charge. Well, as you can see, Ford's got a 3-day, they have a month, and they have a yearly subscription that you can subscribe to. And of course, it's up to you how long you want your subscription to last. So what you're basically doing is you're buying a bit of time so that you can do calibrations. That's the whole idea behind this. And the prices, of course, will change. You'll see the prices here in my presentation. You'll see the prices here in my presentation is, in fact, a little bit different than what the prices I actually have on the screen. Yeah, the guy said, we just had a question popped up, says Motorcraft service is misspelled. Yeah, it kind of is. The web address is a little on the misspelled side. It's a good thing you guys caught that because I didn't catch that. So anyway, yeah, you're going to want to make sure you go to the right web address. Good point. All right, so now let's take a look at where we're going to go once we decide that we want to become a reprogramming center and we want to do some Ford vehicles. Well, you're going to choose the sign-up key. And this process I'm going to take you through for about half of our webinar today. You will not have to repeat this process after you've done it the first time. So effectively what my point is I'm going to take you through from start to finish so that first-timers out there, because we've got a lot of guys who are doing this, going to be doing this for the first time, can understand what it is they're going to see there, and you can simply pull your hand out and go page by page what you're actually going to see. So here we're going to click on this because it says sign up here. At that point, we're going to say, okay, let's go through and put a username and an ID in other words, a password in, that we want to have permanently for this website. So we're going to put whatever our username is that we want to have, whatever our password we want to use, and the system will then remember that password. You can, of course, write that down if you don't want it to remember it, and you're going to then click the Enter key. It's then going to give you several pages of instructions. It's going to give you a bunch of information about the tools. It's going to give you a bunch of information about how the programming process is done, the subscriptions. All those things are going to be listed here for you before you have to buy anything. So you can say to yourself, yes, I want to move forward, or no, I don't really want to get into this type of thing. All right, so now, as we get to the back page of that previous menu, you can see it's listing the type of equipment we've got, the type of reprogramming that's available, and it's saying, okay, you're ready to buy this program, so let's click the purchase button. And that's going to then take us through the rest of the sign-up process to get us signed up to work on the Fords. So we're going to click the purchase button right now. It's going to pop up a purchase receipt showing us how much it would cost for, in this instance, our month-long subscription. After we click that, it's going to take us to a checkout line. So we can go to our cart, we can check our cart, and again, we can see that we've purchased a month-long subscription here. We're going to click the checkout box to activate our subscription. It's going to tell you, hey, if you want to check out, you're going to confirm this. So we're going to click the checkout box. to confirm our purchase. It's then going to take my credit card information and tell me these are the terms of your purchase. So kind of like buying other software, same kind of thing. So we're going to click the Agree button because, of course, we would have thoroughly read that like we always do, right? At that point, we're going to take you to a window that's going to allow you to get into the reprogramming process. Now, you've purchased the subscription at this point. So what you've basically done right now is you've established a username and a password. You've purchased your subscription for whatever length of time that you want to be able to do reprogramming for. You've got your equipment. Now, the big thing you're missing right now is a software program on your laptop or your PDA or your PC to allow you to actually do the programming. So that's what we're going to do next. So we got this window that just pops up here. In the lower left-hand corner of the window, it says Reprogramming and Initialization. Well, we're going to want to initialize because we do not have the software on our laptop to make this thing work yet. So we're going to click on that, and that one says Forward Module Reprogramming, FMP, and you'll see the terminology FMP popping up all over here as we move along. So we're going to click on Doing Reprogramming. It's going to say now it's time to download an installed program onto your PC to enable you to do the programming. So again, you only have to do this one time. Once you get it on there, you don't have to go through all this process again unless they update the software, and then at that point it will tell you, hey, you need to have a new download installer, or it will automatically do it for you. As you can see, they've got different versions of installers depending on the calendar that's listed there on the website. So now we're going to select Forward Module Programming. So we click on the Forward Module Programming, and that's going to download the installer onto our PC. Now, just like you do with other software, when you're ready to install something, these screens are going to look very familiar to you. You're going to save it, and then you're going to save it in or save it as a portion on your desktop itself. This is going to create an icon for you on your desktop so that you don't have to jump through a bunch of hoops in order to get into this reprogramming functionality on your laptop once you got it established. So I've selected the desktop right here. At that point, it's going to load this FMP icon onto my machine, as you can see here. So once you see it pop up on the screen, you're then going to double-click that icon. It's going to take us through the same process that you would have when you're loading any type of software onto your PC. It's going to say, okay, this is what we're loading. We click the next button. At that point, we're going to give you a user agreement. So, of course, you would thoroughly read the user agreement, check I accept the agreement, and hit the next box. It's now trying to tie that agreement and that software you just put on your PC to your user ID. So the user ID that you had established when you first got into this, you need to have written down somewhere, your ID and password. You're going to put the user ID in here, and you're going to click the next box. It's now saying, do you want to put it onto your C drive, which is yes, where we're going to want to put it. We want it on our main hard drive. It's telling me, hey, we're ready to install this thing. So let's click the Install button at this point. Again, nothing different than putting on standard software. And now it's going to give you a progress bar that's going to come across the screen showing you exactly where you're at with everything. Now, again, I can't overemphasize this. I put it right in your text for you. This process is slow as watching paint dry. So effectively what it boils down to is you're going to be here for a lot of minutes getting this thing loaded. So don't worry about that. Do not cancel or back out of it anything at this point. It just takes quite a bit of time to get your software loaded onto your PC. Now you have an Install Shield wizard, just like you would for other types of software. You're going to click Yes, I'm ready to restart it. Once we get this thing installed, we then simply hit the Finish button. It's going to shut my computer off and restart it again, and then establish the icon onto my desktop for me. Now, Again, first time operation, we've got an icon on our desktop. It's also put an icon in our main menu, as you can see right here. And that icon is Ford Motor Company, and it's a reprogramming FMP program that you've installed. The only thing that we're missing is to latch your tools that you've purchased to this software on your PC. We have to tell it whose tool you have. So in order to do that, we're going to click on Ford Module Programming right now. So we've got a pull-down menu, as you can see here. We've gone to the Start menu, up to Ford Motor Company, FMP, Ford Module Programming, and we're now going to load the version of J2534 tool we have. It's going to go out. It's going to look at the tool. You're going to put that obviously on my screen for you. I'm going to select that tool. Now the tool that I'm using today is a Cardac Plus. That was the box type tool that I showed you before. So at this point, it pops up on the screen. I select that. I say Save Device. When I save the device itself, now I don't have to come back through and do this. This is hooking your laptop to that particular cable. So each time that you hook up here, it will know you're using that particular cable with this laptop that you're using. Now at this point, we've established this program onto our PC to allow us to access Ford Reprogramming. Now, it's also latched into the brand and part number of the cabling that you've got for your pass-through device. So all that work that we needed to do in the background is now done. Now we're going to get ready to start programming. So we're going to want to open the reprogramming functionality itself, or function that we're going to have here. So we can either do that through a pull-down menu or by simply clicking the Ford Reprogramming icon that you have there. It will then pop up with some instructions. The instructions themselves, you simply read them. It's going to tell you how to use the check boxes. It's going to tell you how to use the buttons that you're going to see displayed here. The basic information you're going to need to know to do reprogramming. So at this point, we're going to hit the Continue button there in the middle of the screen. It's going to say, make sure you're hooked to the internet, because we definitely need to be hooked to the internet before this thing's going to function. It's going to then ask me what kind of vehicle I'm working on. It's gone out, it's looked at my car, because I now have this hooked to the vehicle. So I've got my cabling, my PC, all hooked to the internet and to the vehicle itself at this point. It's going to ask me what I've got. It's asking me, do I have a Mercury or do I have a Ford Fusion? So in this instance, I've got a Ford Fusion. So I've chose Fusion, and this is the point where things are going to start to change a little bit. Most of the other manufacturers use a yes or no button or an okay or not okay button or something like that. Ford does not do that. And you're going to see this going across the board here in many of these pages we're coming forward with. You're going to see a checkbox at the bottom right-hand corner of the page itself. That checkbox means that, yes, you're agreeing with what's on the screen and you're ready to move to the next page. So in this instance, I'm going to click that checkbox. That's going to move me to the next page itself, and it's going to say, I want you to confirm this vehicle you're working with. So I want to know for sure that you're actually working on a Ford Fusion. So you're going to obviously make sure it's a Ford Fusion. It is. So we click the checkbox again. Okay. It's then going to put up some information. It's basically gleaned off the car. So it's looked at the information coming off the DLC and says that it has this type of engine, has this size of engine, this type of transmission. It's a gasoline-powered engine. It's got federal emissions on it and so forth. Is this correct? You're going to simply say yes to that. That will move you to the next page. Now at this point, there's also another neat feature that Ford's got on the bottom down here, and that's this box that I got the big blue arrow going to. That box will give you a list of all the controllers on the data bus. So you can see who else is out there, which is a kind of a neat idea here. So you can see, is there a body control module? Is there a transmission control module? Exactly who is online. So kind of a neat little feature. Again, that's what that box on the bottom blue arrow is pointing to. We're going to confirm this vehicle by clicking the yes button itself. It's going to go out and it's going to pull the car, and it's going to pull up the last 8 of the VIN for us. So the VIN is popping up there right now, as you can see on your screen, top box itself. It's going to ask me, do I want to put an RO in here? Do I want to put odometer numbers in here? And I can simply type those in if I'd like to. At this point, we're going to check our last date of our VIN, make sure our VIN is correct. We're going to click the enter box. It's going to say, now I want you to confirm this. Is this really the whole VIN on the car? And so, again, they're going through step by step with you here, and they're confirming multiple times to make sure they've got the correct information before they try to load a calibration. So if you look at the bottom display there, it shows the VIN of the car itself. Is that the correct VIN? If it is, you're going to click this box on the right-hand side. This check box itself basically is going to be an expansion box. It's going to expand and give you some different features. So you don't have the checkbox on the bottom because we're not moving to the next page. We're moving to some other features that you're going to have. So we click on that box. Now the features for different types of reprogramming are going to pop up. It's saying on this car you got the abilities to either reprogram, do module programming, or you have the ability to relearn the theft deterrent system, the PAT system. Ford's kind of good about the PAT system as far as giving access. About the only thing they won't give you access to is some of the newer stuff, as well as some of the key codes. If you need access to key codes information, you have to get your locksmith certification. So they will tell you that as part of their website information that they give you on the website itself. Now, one word of precaution I will give you about the PAT system. If for some reason you do need to relearn the theft system on a Ford, you have to make sure you have both keys. You cannot learn it with one key. And if you make the mistake of clicking it, where you erase the PAT system memory, and you only have one key, you're basically toast. So you're going to have to get two keys that you're going to be using in this car, or more, because some of them allow you to do more keys. At least two keys so that you can relearn the theft deterrent. We're not going to be learning theft deterrent today. We're going to simply doing module reprogramming. So we're going to click on the module reprogramming box itself, which I've got highlighted up there, upper blue arrow. And then we're going to click on the checkbox itself, lower right-hand corner. That will move us to our next stage. At this point, it's saying you want to do programming. There are 4 choices of programming. Ford allows you to do reprogramming of a module that's brand new. They allow you to reprogram a module that's in the vehicle right now. They allow you to program specific parameters into the module. What we're talking about here is, let's say you change tire size in a vehicle. Ford will allow you to go in and program some of the different tire sizes, at least the tire sizes they sell. So you can actually go in and custom calibrate this module in case somebody changed the tires on it. You also have a 4th choice there, it's as built. As built means you're going to put it back to the stock calibration it came out of when it came out of the plant. We're going to want to reprogram our PCM right now, so we're going to choose module reprogramming, which is the second one down in the menu. When we pull that menu, you can see it pops up and gives me module reprogramming for 4 different types of modules on this car. We're going to select PCM. So we're going to go ahead and reprogram the PCM now. So hit the button. It's going to go back through and it's going to do the VIN code verification process again. Even though we've done this before, as I told you, they're very thorough on the Ford system of making sure you jump through all the different hoops to make sure there's no mistakes made here. So it's going to want you to verify that you had the correct VIN in the car. It's going to go out and it's going to look at the VIN. It's going to look at the cals that are on the car and give you a listing of what you've got. It's saying, okay, here is the VIN on the car. This is what I see on the car itself as the correct VIN. Is that actually the correct VIN? So at this point, what we're saying is somebody could have replaced a module and had the incorrect VIN put in the module. So you're going to want to make sure you get the correct VIN loaded. So in this instance, this is the correct VIN. So I'm going to say yes to that box. Now this is kind of a neat feature here. Ford allows you to print this page off. And what this page is something to put either with your RO or leave in the car to show that a recalibration's been done on the vehicle itself. That's kind of valuable when you're working in the car. Wouldn't you like to know that somebody's already recalibrated it and what calibration numbers were in it? Well, this is to allow you to do that. You can, again, either leave it in the car or staple it to your RO if this is a customer's car that you deal with all the time. At this point, when you move forward, It's going to come out and it's going to pull the controller to see what software is actually on the vehicle itself. You're going to see the version of software that's there, and it's also going to tell you if there's a new updated software. So in this instance, you can see the version of the software that we've got for our particular car that we've got that we're working on right now. This Fusion is there in red. We're showing that we do have an updated calibration. It's saying we can change that calibration to another part number. So we're going to say yes, we want to do that because we want to download the new cal. So once I click the yes button, it's now going to start the cal loading process. It may tell you to disconnect different things. It may tell you to cycle the key. There could be lots of different things it tells you to do. You simply follow the steps that are listed right on the screen. It's basically that simple. At this point, once you've followed whatever steps were there, it's going to automatically start downloading the calibration, and you're going to see the progress moving across the screen as it starts to load the cal. Now, big thing here you need to know, you do not want to lose connections with the DLC at this point. You definitely do not want to lose connection with the internet. You don't want to have a battery go dead on you. So again, keep those three things in mind. You need to make sure that you have that cal fully installed. This process will take approximately a half an hour or maybe a little bit more. Some of these Fords I've seen take an hour, hour and a half. So it's going to be there for a while loading. My point is it's not going to be a 3-minute thing where it's boom, it's done, at least not on a PCM. So we're loading the cal. It's then going to give you a bunch of key prompts, cycling the key on and off. So you simply follow what's on the screen. It's going to tell you once the cal is loaded that yes, the calibration has been loaded. It's going to say, okay, if the cal is loaded, are you ready to move on to the next screen? We are by clicking the arrow in the bottom of the box itself on the lower right-hand corner. It's going to tell me I need to take that piece of paper that I recorded my cal information on and put it in the car somewhere. Dealerships are required to do this, but obviously independent shops are not. But it is a very good idea. We're going to click the box on the left or right-hand corner again to move to the next page. At this point, it's going to tell me to start the engine. So we're going to start the engine, again following, make sure the engine does start, make sure we don't have a theft deterrent issue with the car. And then it's going to follow that up with an automated screen as soon as the car starts, where it's going to say, hey, I'm ready to clear the codes. And it's going to go through and clear the codes for you. So again, pretty simple process. About 2/3 of this process you will not have to repeat once you get the software installed onto your PC. So again, you got to go to the website, you got to sign up to the website, you got to sign up for a subscription, you have to load your installer program so you have a Ford program on your PC. You have to identify the J2534 device you're working with, and once those things are done, you'll be able to skip over those the next time you do calibration. You'll be able to come right into the cal stuff and actually start working on the calibration process. So again, process is very simple on the Ford vehicles themselves. Takes a little bit of time to do it, but a very, very simple process. Again, I'd like to thank the guys from Drew Technologies for helping us out. They've been a great help with us on the calibration stuff, and making sure we got the right equipment and that we got all of our ducks in a row. And also like to thank the guys from Seal Aftermarket Products for sponsoring our webinars. We certainly appreciate their assistance. That keeps the webinars free for everybody. Well, I don't see any questions popping up. Looks like everybody's got their questions answered. Hopefully you did anyway. Hopefully you've seen that this is a simple process and it's a money-making process. Again, this calibration stuff's not going to go away, guys. It's going to stay here for as long as we're around. So bottom line is, it's something you need to definitely look at getting into. Going to have an automated survey that follows this. Again, thank you guys for attending. We're going to be coming back with a webinar here in 2 weeks. That webinar is going to be on active fuel management systems. Now, you may be wondering what that is. That's on these cars that actually switch cylinders off as you're driving down the road. I've had lots of drivability complaints that are misconstrued as transmission complaints due to active fuel management system issues. You know, things as simple as people not changing the oil on these new vehicles will drive you crazy with these active fuel management vehicles. So bottom line is we're going to be doing a webinar on that come 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks from today. So hopefully we'll see you guys then. With that said, guys, Thanks very much for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful week.